Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at an open Great League team that a battler used to climb to legend, featuring a pretty interesting anti-meta core of Chestnut and Shadow Typhlosion. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, KitKat Deluxe, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now the team is as follows: Chestnut on the lead, Shadow Drapion as the save switch to lure out any potential ground types, and then as the closer, Shadow Typhlosion to burn it all down. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at this team in action. Off to a dream start in game number 1, Chestnut into Credilli, and the Credilli is not switching out. It appears the opponent is completely core broken by the unique coverage of Chestnut. Frenzy Plant is going to connect, dealing devastating damage to Credilli. Credilli's moveset is completely walled here. They are going to go for a Rock Tomb to apply a debuff, and they're going to throw the second one on alignment, just looking to land some damage and to debuff the Chestnut even further. There's a save switch to Shadow Drapion. Opponent sends out Gastrodon, and now we know why they couldn't switch out of that lead, because they were completely core broken by the Chestnut. Gastrodon is going to be hit with a second crunch, and Gastrodon will actually have to respect this damage. They shield. They're going to get a full farmed out of the Drapion, but the Drapion gets the damage registration error, able to make one final Aqua Tail. That Aqua Tail will not knock out, but it should set up a pretty nice farm for the Chestnut, where one Vine Whip will be able to pick up the knockout. This Chestnut is extremely low. Body Slam barely does not KO. In comes Typhlosion. Typhlosion going to be hit with a Rock Tomb, so it is going to be debuffed, but it's up 2 Incinerates. In the back is more Pekko, and the opponent will immediately resign the match. Chestnut into Swalot, a devastatingly bad lead. In the next match, we see a save switch to Shadow Drapion. Drapion is going to fire off a Crunch. Realistically, Drapion does want a Crunch debuff here to make this matchup more comfortable, but it does not get it. These mud shots do add up quite a bit. Drapion with a no shield as Swalot is going to connect with the Ice Beam. Drapion is looking to try and force a CMP tie there, but the opponent not going to let that happen. They are going to overfarm. Crunch will not knock out. And we do see the Swalot here. It ends up losing CMP to the Drapion. The opponent maybe tried to commit to a farm down there. Either that, or they just wanted farm on their Golisopod. Golisopod's energy very strong into this team. In comes the Chestnut. Unfortunately, Chestnut does get the one turn bring in there. Golisopod X Scissor is going to connect, but that's a move that Chestnut knows that it can survive. Chestnut farming up, firing off this Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant is going to be shielded up by the Golisopod. Golisopod firing off the X Scissor, and KitKat's leaving it all up to Typhlosion. In comes Typhlosion. Opponent in the back has Blastoise, but this is not a counter to a Shadow Typhlosion that's up a shield. Shadow Typhlosion fires off the Thunder Punch. Big damage onto the Blastoise. Blastoise will be able to grab both shields, but at this point, I don't think anything's slowing down this Typhlosion. Typhlosion committing the final shield of the match, looking to get the farm down here, exiting with the back-to-back Thunder Punches. Golisopod, it's just getting outpaced here. Thunder Punch is going to pick up the KO, as the opponent from counting knew there was no win con since the back-to-back moves were reached. Chestnut into Tinkaton. Not the most comfortable matchup here, as of course this team is ABA weak to Tinkaton. But Chestnut is going to look to get some chip damage here, firing off a superpower, and then can look to bail out of this matchup into the Drapion. In comes Drapion Tinkaton, firing off energy, and Shadow Drapion will immediately no shield, as it is going to be the Bulldoze. No Bulldoze debuff comes through. In comes Golisopod, opponent trying for an Aqua Tail catch, but it was unsuccessful, and now Crunch deals massive damage and gets a defense drop. This Aqua Tail will not knock out. Golisopod can survive here, and they are going to let that through, but if Drapion wants switch advantage, it's theirs for the taking. But if you're running Shadow Typhlosion, you're really not going to want switch advantage nearly as frequently as you're going to want just getting an energy advantage on Typhlosion. We see a no shield here. It ends up being a Bulldoze bait. That is devastating for the opponent. KitKat was saying even if it is going to be the play rough, then Typhlosion will just get too much of an energy head start. In the back is a shiny Galarian Moltres, and this Moltres is getting melted by Incinerate. Thunder Punch into the Moltres is going to be no shielded. They're getting KO'd. In comes the Tinkaton. And there's just no hope for the opponent at this point. Shadow Typhlosion just too deadly of a sweeper, and it's able to claim another win. We move to the next match, picking up a tricky lead, Chestnut into Grumpig. Psywave will be hitting for super effective damage here. Chestnut going to look for a Frenzy Plant and dip in this matchup. Frenzy Plant is going to connect big damage onto the Grumpig. There's the switch into Drapion, and I'm shocked the opponent is staying in here. A Grumpig lead should have a good check to a Drapion in the back. And it turns out they do have a wall to Drapion as Tinkaton hits the field. So the opponent made a massive misplay by firing off the Dynamic Punch at the Drapion. They should have saved that energy, as that energy could have been more valuable elsewhere and brought Tinkaton into what's a dominant win matchup. So far the opponent, despite a tricky lead for Kit Kat, the opponent's plays are helping quite a bit, and they play rough there. That's a very odd play rough. Maybe they were expecting a catch onto the Chestnut, but now Typhlosion just gets a bunch of free farm. In comes a regular Drapion. Opponent get a catch here. We are going to see an undercharge, but this undercharge should allow Grumpig to make a Dynamic Punch, and it does. So now Typhlosion is forced to go down a shield. Typhlosion does have a Thunder Punch in reserve, though. Drapion will be able to force the final shield. I think the saving grace is that this is a regular Drapion, which means the crunch is not going to do a whole lot of damage to Chestnut. We are going to see the Thunder Punch number 1 launched, immediately followed by Thunder Punch number 2, putting a lot of pressure onto the opponent. The opponent is going to double shield. Typhlosion staying in this matchup, forcing the opponent's hand, and now Chestnut will be on cleanup duty in this endgame. Chestnut is going to hit the field, and there's just no way that a non-Shadow Crunch is knocking out here. Chestnut will be able to hang on. The opponent ends up going for an Aqua Tail anyway. The opponent definitely made some very questionable charge move decisions in this match. But either way, we don't get to choose our opponents, but we can control how we play. And Kit Kat is able to execute nicely there and take the win. Terrible lead, leading Chestnut into Talonflame. Safe switch to the Shadow Drapion. Opponent responds with a Swampert, and this game is off to a very, very tough start. Crunch is going to inflict massive damage onto the Swampert, though. We are going to see Drapion overfarming quite a bit. Swampert launching a Hydro Cannon, and that is going to be no-shielded. But with Swampert now running Sludge, Swampert's going to get a ton of damage into this Chestnut, which is very unfortunate. Sludge connects, Chestnut now deep into the yellow HP. The opponent will be able to send back in the Talonflame. There's the switch into Typhlosion, but up a turn means this is not a CMP tie. Typhlosion gets neither the CMP tie nor the free Incinerate because of that one-turn switch. That is how the game is supposed to work, but it puts Typhlosion at a massive disadvantage in this particular situation, because Typhlosion relies on being able to outpace Talonflame, but now it's not going to be able to. The Talonflame has massively overfarmed. They thought about farming down, but they realized they cannot, and this is a very safe catch from the opponent. They're going to catch. Their final Pokemon is Tinkaton. So, unfortunately, Typhlosion had a lot of play into this team, but Typhlosion, it would love to be able to bank that move and switch, but it's just not going to happen, and this game is going to end in a loss, as Chestnut will be able to KO the Tinkaton, but Talonflame did exit with a move. That's just a very difficult team for this one, and Typhlosion perpetually being down a turn, it just couldn't really gain an advantage. We've got a scary Pokemon on the lead in the next match, and its name is Shadow Grimer. Shadow Grimer is running Mud Slap. Mud Slap obviously would completely destroy the backline, but Chestnut will have to be very careful of this Grimer firing off Sludge. Here we see a switch into the Drapion, hoping for the Sludge catch, and the Sludge catch is successful. These Mud Slaps are going to make quick work of the Drapion. Drapion will make it to an Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail into the Grimer is going to be shielded, and Grimer will get a full farm into the Drapion and exit with energy to be able to threaten either one of these Pokemon. In comes Typhlosion. Typhlosion just hoping that that Incinerate will be enough to knock out so it does not have to take any more Mud Slaps. It is. Out comes Golisopod. And if this is the best answer to a Typhlosion, then this could get very, very fun. Aqua Jet will, of course, force the final shield. There's the undertap from the Shadow Typhlosion. Shadow Typhlosion firing off the Thunder Punch, picking up the KO. In the back is Talonflame, and this is looking like a win. It looks like the opponent did get one turn bring in there, but it's not going to affect much, as that's just way too much HP lost. Even if the opponent could farm down, they would have such little HP left that the Chestnut would actually end up Vine Whipping them down for the win. Chestnut in a really tough spot here in the next match, leading into Jump Bluff. There's going to be a safe switch into a Drapion. The opponent is going to farm up a ton of energy and send in Gastrodon. By banking an Aerial Ace before switching, the opponent has actually given Drapion enough of an energy head start where Drapion can survive the Mud Slaps and the Body Slam to make it to a crunch, and because of the earlier crunch debuff, this is just going to knock out. The opponent kind of can't afford to shield that because otherwise they would just be surrendering big farm to the Chestnut, so they're going to give up switch and send back in the Jumpluff. Jumpluff throwing 2 Fairy Winds and the move. Typhlosion has to respect the acrobatics. That would be way too much damage. Opponent is going to full send, and it's going to be a Shadow Lapras in the back. So this will be a bit of an interesting endgame. Typhlosion has a lot of work to do. Ideally, you do want to... Oh, we actually see a no-shield from the opponent. They no-shield on the Lapras. I was going to say Typhlosion's going to have to do so much, but the opponent just completely surrenders the Lapras. They're saving shields for this Jumpluff. Jumpluff fires off energy instantly here. Aerial Ace will KO the Chestnut, but now, unless I'm mistaken, they're just getting incinerated down. Jumpluff will fire off energy. Typhlosion is going to be committing the shield. They go for the Aerial Ace, but they're not getting the acrobatics. This is only an Aerial Ace, and this is guaranteed to not knock out. It's a regular Aerial Ace, not a Shadow. And that game looked quite scary from the outset, but it did end up being a win. Chestnut into Tinkaton, not the most comfortable lead ever. We are going to see a safe switch into Drapion. Drapion could have thrown the Aqua Tail instantly to prevent the opponent from denying a turn, but chose to overfarm, maybe anticipating a catch, and unfortunately that means Drapion is now down a Poison Sting in this matchup. And this is already an absolutely terrible spot to be in, as Tinkaton does prove to be difficult for this line. We are going to see the opponent actually over farming a massive amount. They are going to let a third Aqua Tail connect because Tinkaton is extremely bulky. This way Tinkaton does exit with residual energy, but it exits so low. In comes the Chestnut. Chestnut going to be no shielding as Tinkaton will fire off its last second bulldoze. And you have to hope that Chestnut can do well in the back, but it's a Lapras. It's a Shadow Lapras at that. In comes Typhlosion. Typhlosion is going to be firing off the Thunder Punch at the Lapras. Opponent made a switch out and a catch onto Dusclops. And I think Dusclops is bulky enough that the opponent is going to be able to pull off this win. The Shadow Punch is going to be shielded. Typhlosion firing off another move. But we are going to see, unfortunately here, a shield from the Dusclops. And the spamminess of Dusclops is just going to prove to be too much. Just letting the Typhlosion go. In comes the Chestnut, but Dusclops also learns Ice Punch, and Ice Punch will hit for super effective damage. Oh, they're on Fire Punch, actually, but it's essentially going to accomplish the same thing, where it's just going to do too much damage. Double Superpower is reached by the Chestnut, but even if this does KO the Lapras, there's still the Dusclops to worry about. Down goes the Lapras, but in comes Dusclops, and 1 Hex means game over. After a few rough leads, Chestnut finally sees a much better lead leading into Azumarill. Azumarill's staying in this matchup, so the opponent... I mean, this is not an amazing matchup for Azumarill. It could obviously hit back with Play Rough, but if they're staying in, there's probably something weak in the back to Chestnut. We're going to see a catch attempt onto the Drapion. Catch attempt unsuccessful, but it's able to lure out a Mud Slapper, which is essential if Typhlosion wants to do anything in the endgame. Aqua Tail is going to be no shielded. Marowak has to throw and does, but this is going to set up some sick farm for the Chestnut, as Chestnut is a complete wall to energy from the Marowak. This is actually a great decision here by KitKat to not wait the switch timer. You do not want the opponent to have an ability to save this Marowak. You just want to farm them all the way down, exit with a ton of energy. It's going to be Drapion in the back, and Chestnut does have back-to-back superpowers loaded and ready to go. Superpower number 1 is going to be shielded immediately, followed by superpower number 2. This should be no shielded by the opponent, but now Typhlosion has the potential to burn it all down. Typhlosion is going to be committing the shield here as they go for the Aqua Tail. There's the switch into Azumarill. Azumarill, everything they throw is going to be resisted here. We are going to see a shield, however, because it would still do a ton of damage, and Typhlosion can farm down and leave with the back-to-back Thunder Punches. So a nice example of just because a move is resisted doesn't mean you have to let it go. Typhlosion is extremely glassy, and in this instance, committing to farm and preserving HP is absolutely the win con. Hopping to the final match. Oh, that's a terrible lead. Chestnut into Shadow Drifblim. The save switch to Drapion. Drifblim not switching out, and that's going to instantly cost them a shield. To be a Drifblim team that doesn't have an answer to a Drapion save switch feels like malpractice, because that's one of Drifblim's worst matchups. Icy Wind is going to be no shielded. Opponent sends in their own Drapion, and this is very okay. Aqua Tail is debuffed. It's not going to do much of anything. The opponent is actually going to play to the CMP tie and confidently win it. So the opponent clearly running some attack weight on the Drapion if they were confident with the CMP tie. Chestnut unfortunately does get the one turn bring in. Crunch is going to connect. No debuff comes through. Chestnut will fire off the Superpower, and Superpower will delete this Drapion if they let it through. And they do. Back in comes the Drifblim, answered with Typhlosion, and my goodness, Typhlosion, these Incinerates are adding up. Opponent Icy Winding to slow the roll of Typhlosion. There's going to be a nice catch by the opponent as they catch the Thunder Punch onto Tinkaton, but that still does a ton of damage. Another Thunder Punch reached by the Typhlosion. This will not knock out, however. The opponent can survive this. They are going to let this through, and the opponent, oh, that is confidence in their IVs right there, barely hanging on, but they're actually not running Bulldoze. That's a huge surprise. We see the switch into the Chestnut. Chestnut makes the Frenzy Plant, and this game should just be a win, as Chestnut Frenzy Plant is going to pick up the knockout. They know they couldn't shield because Typhlosion had a move. All in all, this is one of the more creative Legend teams that I've seen so far this season, so big congratulations to Kit Kat. Chestnut, it's a Pokemon that I basically never see played, and on top of that, Shadow Typhlosion, it's used more commonly than Chestnut, but it's still a very spicy pick. This is more of a hard ABB line where you are absolutely needing to bait out that Mud Slapper with the Shadow Drapion. So this is a line that you can try if you're very good with energy management with these Glacier Mons, because Typhlosion, it's going to live and die off of energy management. As we saw in some of these battles, if you can get Typhlosion that one Incinerate head start, it can completely run away with games, but if it's down shields, down energy in the end game, a glassy Pokemon like Typhlosion doesn't have the ability to tank hits like something like a bulkier Azumarill can do. So I think this is a very strong team, but I would only use it if you're very comfortable with these Glacier energy management Shadow Pokemon, because when used correctly with good energy management, they are terrifying to battle against. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.